The teaching that Jerusalem was destroyed in 607 BC is based on an interpretation called the 70 years of desolation. Those that support this teaching hold that the Jews returned to Jerusalem in 537 BC, and by subtracting 70 years, we can derive when Jerusalem was destroyed, namely 607 BC. However, as presented in Part 1, the supposition that the Jews returned in 537 BC is at best conjecture. It cannot be proven from Scripture. In fact, a plain reading of Ezra seems to indicate that the Jews returned in 538 BC. But the larger question is, did the return of the exiles to Jerusalem signal the end of the 70 years? What does the Bible say? For this, we must consider the original prophecy about the 70 years, and this is found in the book of Jeremiah. There are actually only 3 mentions of the 70 years in Jeremiah. The first 2 are in Jeremiah chapter 25, and this is what we will presently consider. The third is in chapter 29, and we will cover this in another discussion. For now, let us turn to chapter 25, verses 11 and 12, and discuss the first 2 occurrences of Jeremiah's 70-year prophecy. And all this land will become a site of ruins, a desolation, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And then, when the 70 years are fulfilled, I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, declares Yahweh, for their inequity, and the land of the Chaldeans, and I will make it an everlasting waste. So the first thing we should consider here is what event would mark the end of the 70 years. According to the passage we just considered, it would be when Babylon and her king was punished for their inequity. What year was Babylon punished? This occurred in October of 539 BC, when Babylon was overthrown and the Neo-Babylonian dynasty came to an end. The 70 years are mentioned in conjunction with how long the nations, including Judah, would serve the king of Babylon. They would be vassal states of the Babylonian Empire. Here, Jeremiah does not mention when Jerusalem will be destroyed or how long. And it does not specify how long the land itself would be desolated, just that that is what the land would become. The Hebrew word for desolation is not synonymous with total destruction or being without an inhabitant. It can well refer to the results of a land ravaged by invading armies. The Babylonians were known for their policy of destroying unfortified settlements, cutting down plantations, and devastating fields. Now, in regard to the endpoint of the 70 years, let us compare Jeremiah 25:12 to the account of Daniel, who was an eyewitness to these events, and was given the ability to interpret the divine handwriting on the wall the night that Babylon fell. Daniel chapter 5, verses 26 through 28 says, "This is the explanation of the matter. Meaning, God has numbered your kingdom and brought an end to it. Tekel, you have been weighed on scales, and you have been found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians." Daniel explained to the Babylonian ruler that God had numbered the days of his kingdom and brought an end to it. From Jeremiah, we can see indeed that God had foreordained a period of 70 years that the nations would have to serve Babylon. Daniel also explained that the king had been weighed and found wanting. He and his nation had missed the mark, and as punishment, his kingdom would be given to the Medes and the Persians. It was time to pay up. To reiterate what we've discussed thus far, we've discovered from Scripture 2 points about the 70 years. First, they would end when the kingdom of Babylon was punished, and we know that the kingdom of Babylon was punished in 539 BC when Babylon fell. Second, The 70 years would be a time that the nations would serve Babylon. Therefore, if the 70 years ended in 539 BC, when did they begin? Well, if we take 539 BC and subtract 70 years, we come to the year 609 BC. As we've discussed, the beginning of the 70 years would not be when Jerusalem was destroyed, but when there would be a definite starting point when the nations would begin to serve Babylon. So the question is, did anything significant in that regard happen in the year 609 BC? Does history give any confirmation that the 70 years could have started in that year?